Just received your KCSE results and don't know what course to choose. In this video, I explain the best career courses in Kenya, the grades required, and how cluster points work. Stay with me, for this may change your future. And congratulations to all students who received their KCSE results this year 2026. I know this is a very important moment in your life because the choices you make now will shape your future career. Some of you, I know you are excited, others are confused, and some may even feel disappointed. But let me tell you something very important today. Your KCSE grade does not define your destiny, but your choices do. In this video, I am going to break down the top career courses in Kenya, explain the minimum entry grades, the subjects required, and where these courses are offered. This video is specially made for students who are asking questions like, what course can I do with my grade? What are the cluster points? Which courses are competitive? Which careers are marketable in Kenya today? But before we look at the courses, let me clarify something that confuses many students. Getting a mini grade of C+ only makes you eligible for university course. What actually places into a specific course is something that we call cluster points. And this is why two students that have two different mini grades can end up in very different courses. So as we go through each course, I will help you understand three key things. Minimum mini grade is required. Subject combination needed. How competitive the course is. That is what determines your placement or your admission. So this will help you choose a course wisely, not emotionally, not through pressure, but through understanding. Whether you scored an A, a B, C+, or even slightly below what you expected, know that there is a pathway for you. Kenya needs doctors, remember? Engineers, we have teachers, software developers, accountants, and many other professionals. So the key is choosing the right path for your strengths. If you are a KCSE candidate, a parent, or a teacher guiding students, please watch this video to the end. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so that more students can make informed decisions about their future. So let's begin. So for those applying for different programs in universities, we need to take note of the following: that the minimum university entry grade in Kenya is generally C+ for the degree programs. You also need to take note that the mini grade does not guarantee placement or admission, but what does is the cluster points and other factors that we are going to look at. So the actual placement depends basically on one, the cluster points. The cluster points are the points that are worked out under the using the four cluster subjects. For example, a person partaking medicine, we consider mathematics, chemistry, biology, and we also have one language subject, either English or Kiswahili. So the four are used to work out the cluster points. Another factor that determines placement is the subject grade. Which grade did you score in that particular subject grades or the cluster subjects? Another factor is the program competitiveness. How competitive is that program that you apply? Some of the times you find programs such as medicine and engineering, they tend to be very competitive and they tend to be to there is always high competition in those particular programs, and that leads to the cluster points being raised, and that may make a person with lower cluster points not to be placed in that particular program. Another factor is the available slots. How many slots are there in that particular program? So if the slots are less, the cluster points are raised, and that may make competition to increase in that particular program. So we also need to take note that the Joint Admission Board, which is currently known as the Kenya University and Colleges Central Placement Service, uses the cluster points to decide who gets a course, while mini-grade decides who is allowed to compete for that particular course. So this means that any student with C plus and above is eligible to apply for any degree course in Kenya, but will not guarantee him or her being placed due to program competitiveness, which translates to the cluster points being raised. A student with C plus technically qualifies to pursue medicine and surgery, but will not be placed due to low cluster points. But you know that a student with C plus and above can pursue medicine in a private university as long as the student has the passion and the need to pursue that course. A student C plus can pursue medicine in a private university and be awarded the degree. Let's take note of the following, that under JAB, what we call the Joint Admission Board, now the KUCCPS, mini grade is only the entry ticket, not the final decision maker. And what truly places a student into any program is cluster points, not just the mini grade. Let's now look at what are the cluster points. Cluster points is a ranking score used by the Kenyan Universities and College Central Placement Service, which was formerly known as JAB, to decide who gets placed into a specific degree program. Cluster points are course specific and they are based on student performance, the subjects or the cluster subjects, the student's overall Kcse performance, and how competitive the course is. So let's now look at the subjects used in cluster calculation. So we need to take note that each degree program uses 4 subjects. The first subject, which is a must, which is mandatory, is a subject from group 1. Remember, I talked about these groups when I was explaining subject selection in senior school. So you can find that particular video, the link to that video in the description of this video. So from group 1, we have either English or Kiswahili or Kenya Sign Language. And the other 3 subjects comes from the remaining groups. And for the science subject courses, we have mathematics and other 2 relevant subjects depending on the course that is being offered. For example, a person pursuing medicine will require these 4 subjects. We have biology, chemistry, mathematics or physics, English or Kiswahili. So those are 4: biology, chemistry, mathematics or physics, English or Kiswahili. For a person pursuing engineering, that person will require mathematics, physics, chemistry, English or Kiswahili. That person will require those subjects to work out the cluster points. So let's now look at how to calculate the cluster points. So we have said that the KUCCPS uses 4 cluster subjects to calculate cluster cutoff points for a particular degree program. For example, an engineering applicant with this kind of score: mathematics B plus 10 points, physics B plain 9 points, chemistry B minus 8 points, English B plain 9 points. And the total number of points in those particular 4 cluster subjects totals to 36. So what happens after that? The KUCCPS and the relevant bodies takes the subject average points, which is that 6 divided by the 4 subjects, which totals to 9, and that is B plain, and the student's overall mini grade, which in this case we assume is B plus 10 points. So what happens from there? A formula is used, and this formula is only known by KUCCPS and NEC. Is used to weigh the performance of that particular student against the overall mini grade of that student and the performance against also the performance of other applicants in that specific year. So what they use the performance indices that are provided by the Kenya National Examination Council to weigh and determine the cluster points for that particular student or group of students in that particular program. And that's the reason you will find that in this particular year, the cluster points for a particular course like medicine were very high, and in this year, the cluster points went down. So what happens is that they weigh the cluster points of student A with other students, the performance of other applicants in that particular year. And if many students or we had many applicants who had scored high, for example, let's say we had several A planes and A minuses, and you are there with your B plus and as your mid grade, and your 9 as your subject average, the cluster subjects. You find that the cluster points are raised so that they eliminate those students who have not achieved that grade that they want. So in this case, you realize that a student with B plus this year may be allowed to pursue medicine, but another student with B plus in another year is not allowed to pursue medicine. So that is how they work out the cluster points. This formula is only known by the relevant bodies, the KUCCPS and NEC, and the rumors that we have heard and the theories that we have heard that there's a formula that you can use to work out your cluster points is not correct. It's not true. So the weight cluster points then determine the rank for the student for that particular course. And the lowest ranked student list is used to determine the cutoff points for that year. So when they are doing that particular ranking, so they decide the cluster points will range between 20 to 30 or 20.1 to 35.2. So they use the least ranked student or applicant to determine the cutoff point for that particular student or that particular course. And that's how the cluster points are determined. So there's no known uh, formula by the public that you can use to work out your cluster points. This is only known by the relevant bodies. So kindly let's take note of that. We also need to take note that different courses or programs have different cluster points. And that's the reason we'll find that medicine, the cluster points for medicine will not be equal to the cluster points for engineering. The cluster points for engineering will not be equal to the cluster points for law. And the cluster points for law will not be equal to the cluster points for education. So each program has its specific cluster points. So I mean grade alone, we need to know that is not enough to allow a person to be placed, but strong grades in the relevant subjects matter more. And that's the reason you'll find that as two students, one of them with a mini grade of A minus, another student with a mini grade of B plus, and all of them applies for medicine program. The one with B plus is given the chance as long as he or she has scored the relevant cluster subjects, that is chemistry, biology, or physics, mathematics, and one language. But this student with A minus maybe never scored so well in the cluster subject. So the student with B plus is given that chance to pursue medicine, but the student with A minus is denied that chance. So that is what happens when you'll see that case. Two students applying for the same course, and one of them has higher mean grade and another one has lower mean grade, and the one with lower mean grade is given that chance to pursue that program. So the maximum possible cluster points is always 48. And why 48? Each subject, the 4 subjects that we are talking about, the highest score is always A plane, which has 12 points. So if in the 4 subjects, the cluster subjects, the student scores A plane. So we take 12 times 4, which totals to 48. And that's the reason you'll find that in the cluster points range between 0 to 48. So you'll have the points or the cluster points ranging between 0 to 48. So we also take need to take note that no formula that is known by the public that is used to work out the cluster points, but this remains confidential to the relevant bodies. And this body is KUCCPS and maybe the Kenya National Examination Council, because they provide the PI to this particular body, the KUCCPS, that places the applicants and the students in various programs. Let's now get to the business, the real business, which is knowing the career courses in Kenya. So the top career courses in Kenya, their cluster subjects, their typical cluster points, and the top universities where these courses are offered. So we start with Bachelor of Medicine and Bachelor of Surgery, starting with the career paths. Which career professions or professions does medicine apply? We have medical doctor. One can become a medical doctor. One can become a surgeon. The entry requirements to this particular career program or course, we have a mean grade of C plus, but practically it is A minus and above. So C plus, as I said before, will only make you eligible to apply for that particular program, but practically A minus and above, you will be allowed to pursue this program, Bachelor of Medicine and Bachelor of Surgery. The cluster subjects, the subjects required to pursue that particular program, you must have performed well in biology, chemistry, mathematics or physics, English or Kiswahili. The typical cluster cutoff points for this particular program is between 42 points to 46 points. And the universities where this particular program is offered, one of the universities is University of Nairobi, Moi University, Kenyatta University, and Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology. So that is Bachelor of Medicine and Bachelor of Surgery. So any information that you need, the career paths, the requirements, the cluster subjects, the typical cutoff points and universities where they are offered is here. Next, we have Bachelor of Pharmacy, career paths. We have pharmacist, pharmaceutical researcher, hospital and retail pharmacy. Entry requirements, a mean grade of B minus and above. Cluster subjects, we have biology, chemistry, mathematics or physics, English or Kiswahili. Typical cluster cutoff points ranges between 38 to 44. The universities where this particular course or program is offered, we have University of Nairobi, Kenyatta University, and Mount Kenya University for the private universities. We have Mount Kenya University offering a Bachelor of Pharmacy. Next is nursing, BSc nursing. Career paths, we have registered nurse, clinical specialist, public health nurse. Entry requirements, we have a mean grade of C plus and above. Cluster points, we have biology, the cluster subjects, biology, chemistry, mathematics or physics, English or Kiswahili. Typical cluster cutoff points ranges between 30 to 36. Universities where this course is offered, we have Kenyatta University, Incarton University, and Masinde Muliro University of Science and Technology. Next is engineering, which involves all types of engineering. We have civil engineering, electrical engineering, mechanical engineering, or what we call mechatronics. The career paths for this program, we have engineers, we have project managers, we have industrial technologists. The entry requirements for this particular program, we have a mean grade of C plus. But for the competitive courses, B minus and above is required. The cluster subjects in this particular program, we need mathematics, physics, chemistry, English or Kiswahili. The typical cluster cutoff points ranges between 35 to 43 points. The universities where this course is offered the best, we have University of Nairobi, we have JKUAT, or Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology. We also have the Technical University of Kenya and Moi University. Next, we have Bachelor of Software Engineering. Career paths to this program, we have software engineers, app developers, cloud and AI specialists. Entry requirements for this program, we have main grade of C++. Cluster subjects, we have mathematics, which is a must, mandatory, English or Kiswahili, physics or computer science. The typical cluster cutoff points ranges between 32 to 40 points. Universities where this program is offered, we have JKUAT University, we also have Dedan Kimathi University and Murang'a University. We also have Kabarak University still offering the same program. Next is Bachelor of Science in Actuarial Science. The career paths, we have actuary, risk analyst, data analyst. The entry requirements, we have mid-grade of C+ and above. The cluster subjects, we have mathematics, we have English or Kiswahili, and any two sciences. The typical cluster cutoff points ranges between 30 to 42. Universities where this program is best offered, we have University of Nairobi, we also have Moi University, we also have Egerton University and JKUAT University still offering the same program. Next is Bachelor of Commerce, Accounting and Finance. The career paths, we have accountant, we have auditor, we have banker, we have financial analyst. Entry requirements, we have a mid-grade of C+ and above. Cluster subjects, we have mathematics, English or Kiswahili, and any other two subjects. Typical cluster cutoff points ranges between 28 to 35. Universities where you can pursue this program, we have University of Nairobi, we have Strathmore University, and we also have Kcse University. Next, we have Bachelor of Law, LLB. Career paths, we have advocate, we have cooperative lawyer, or you can be a legal advisor. Entry requirements, we have a mid-grade of A-. Cluster subjects required, we have English or Kiswahili, which are strongly emphasized. We also have humanities as a requirement. The typical cluster cutoff points ranges between 42 to 46. Universities, we have University of Nairobi, we have Kenyatta University, and we also have Moi University. Next, we have Bachelor of Education, Arts, career paths, becoming a secondary school teacher under the arts program. Entry requirements, we have a mid grade of C+ and above. We have cluster subjects, the two art subjects that the teacher is going to teach, English and or Kiswahili being also a requirement. Typical cluster cutoff points ranges between 26 to 33. Universities where this program is best offered, we have Kenyatta University, University of Nairobi, Egerton University, and we also have Maseno University and other more universities that offer this particular program. At number 10, we have Bachelor of Education Science. The career paths, we have becoming a second school science teacher. Entry requirements, we have a mid-grade of C+ and above. The cluster subjects, we have two science subjects that the teacher will teach. We also have mathematics as a requirement, English or Kiswahili also as a requirement. The typical cluster cutoff points ranges between 30 to 38. And the universities where this program is best offered, we have Kenyatta University, we have Egerton University, and we also have Masinde Muliro University. We also have a few points to take note of. The most competitive programs, their cluster points ranges between 42 to 48. The competitive programs, their programs ranges between, their cutoff points ranges between 35 to 41. Moderately competitive programs, their cutoff points or cluster points ranges between 28 to 43, and less competitive programs, their cluster cutoff points ranges between 0 to 28. So this now marks the end of my presentation. It is now your room to make the correct decision on which program that you want to pursue. and in which institution. Where do you want to pursue that your program? Where do you want to pursue that your program? I've just highlighted the top and best programs that you can pursue in our Kenyan institutions. We also have other more programs that you can still pursue. It's not that the 10 programs that I've just highlighted here or explained here are the only programs that we have. We also have other programs, and you can still make the correct choice for your future career. If you have watched this particular video up to this point, please don't forget to like, share your reactions by commenting, and also, more importantly, subscribe to my YouTube channel, Shiny Grades Online School. Thank you so much for watching, and may God bless you. Bye.